All right, Pops, car dealers don't want you to know this one thing, because if you do know it as a customer, it means you have an incredible amount of negotiating leverage, and it all has to do with the words floor plan. Can you quickly explain to us what floor plan is? And then we've got 3 examples of how floor plan impacts your car deal that you could make with a dealer, because it ultimately ends up cutting into their profits significantly. What is floor plan, Pops, before we jump into the examples?
Well, dealerships typically don't pay cash for their vehicles. They have a line of credit called floor plan. And as the vehicles are invoiced to them, their credit institution forwards the invoice amount to the dealer, to the manufacturer, to actually pay for the vehicle. And then at that point, the dealership starts paying interest on that loan, just like, a normal car loan. So dealerships might have 10, 15, $18 million line of credits so that they can carry all that inventory on their lot.
So there's a couple things going on in the market right now. Interest rates are sky high. That impacts you. That impacts me. That impacts anyone trying to get an auto loan. It also impacts dealers and their lines of credit. The interest rates on a floor plan line of credit are 2, 3, 4 times higher than they were just 2 or 3 years ago. So factor number 1, interest rates are high. Factor number 2, inventory is starting to build back up for new and some used vehicles. And as inventory sits on dealer lots, that means every single day they are paying more and more interest to hold that vehicle, ultimately eating into their profits. So back on CarEdge.com, I don't know how many car searches have a sort or filter by days on market. We found 3 examples of 3 brand new vehicles. All this logic also applies to used cars. We got a Ram 1500, a Ford F-150, and a Chevy Suburban. We focused on the domestics, Dad, because their inventory is sitting the most.
Yes.
And we've estimated what the average daily floor plan cost would have been for these vehicles 2 years ago, 1 year ago, and today. And then, of course, some of these vehicles have been sitting for over half a year. So what that ultimately means for the dealer's checkbook and how you as a customer can use that as leverage. Should we jump in?
We should. And may I say that a dealer principal should be sitting down with his general manager and his sales managers, and he should be sharing this information with them, because when they see what some of these costs are, shame on them for not having sold them sooner.
We've got a 2023 Ram 1500 Bighorn Lone Star. All right, Dad. An $81,000 pickup truck. You and I are going out on a limb, make the math easy. It's probably a $70,000, $72,000 invoice price to the dealer. There's a lot of profit built into these big pickup trucks. Let's just go with $70,000. And this dealer has had this vehicle for 186 days. You can see all this information for free back on CarEdge.com. 2 years ago, this vehicle, every single day it sat there, probably cost the dealership around $3. A year ago, maybe closer to $4. Nowadays, Pops at about 6 to 7% interest rate on that floor plan. You're looking at over $12, close to $12.50 in floor plan cost every day. Now, multiply that by the 186 days that this truck has been sitting there. 2 years ago, would have cost them $535. 1 year ago, $713. Today, a whopping $2,318. No wonder this dealership should want to move on from this vehicle. They've lost a significant amount of profit margin there.
Oh, absolutely. And then they have to pay a salesperson on top of it, and they have to pay the sales manager, they have to pay the general manager, and they're going to have to discount the hell out of the vehicle to finally move it. And maybe when everything is all said and done, because it sat so long with all those expenses, maybe they break even. Maybe.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
And this is why when vehicles sit for a long time, you as a customer should go in and say, hey, I know you've been sitting on this vehicle. I imagine you didn't pay cash for it. Your owner probably floor planned it. Am I right? They floor planned it. Yeah, of course. We finance our vehicle. Great. Let me help you get this off your lot. You can replace it with something brand new that you can make more money on. These are units that you're not going to be making a ton of money on as a dealer. You just need to flip them, turn them, and get something new in that parking spot.
These are units that are just absolutely eating away at your monthly net profit for the dealership, because you are carrying these vehicles way too long, and the expense of carrying these vehicles has risen dramatically, as our numbers suggest. So a good operator would have his fingers on the pulse of what's going on with the inventory, how long it's sitting, what it's costing him per day, reminding his general manager, his sales managers, this piece of poo right here is costing us $50 a day or whatever it is. We need to do something about it.
Not quite 50. I would have to be a very expensive vehicle at a very high floor plan to be $50 a day, but still 10, $15 a day adds up over hundreds of days. Example number 2. An F-150 Platinum, 242 days. Imagine it has the same $70,000 invoice price. It's probably somewhere right around there. 2 years ago, sure, sitting on it for 242 days still didn't make sense, but it only cost the dealership around $700. A year ago, maybe $930. Nowadays, $3,000 just tied up in carrying costs. And it's worth mentioning that the automakers, they actually subsidize, they do what's called floor plan assistance.
Yes.
So typically a percentage of MSRP, they will just stroke a check for every single vehicle that is invoiced to the dealer. They will just stroke a check for 1%, 1%, 0.5%, whatever the number is of MSRP to help the dealer offset floor plan costs. No one is writing a $3,000 floor plan assistance check to help make them whole when they hold onto a vehicle for 3/4 a year.
No, they that floor plan assistance check for that Ford F-150 might be $450, $500. So net, it comes down. It costs them $2,500 to have that car sit there after the floor plan assistance from the manufacturer. And during the height of COVID, when dealers had very little inventory and they sold everything as soon as it came in, well, that floor plan assistance suddenly became a profit center. It just went straight to profit. Today, it is an actual honest to goodness expense, and a large one at that.
Yeah, to your point, if you had a vehicle sitting on your lot for 10 days and you were selling it, or if it wasn't even sitting on the lot, it was just sold immediately right as it came in, the manufacturer is still writing you that check for every single vehicle. Profit center. Now, huge cost center. The third example we'll give is with the Chevy Suburban, Dad. This one's got maybe a $75,000 or so invoice price, only been on this dealer's lot for 2 months. But do the math, and it's still $800 in floor plan expense on this $80,000+ retail price vehicle. Back in the day, this would have been maybe $150, $200 in floor plan expense. It's 4 times that in today's market. Again, this is incentive for dealers to want to move on vehicles more quickly. Think about it. Would you rather just give a customer a $500 or $1,000 discount today to avoid the 2-month sit that's also going to cost you $800 to $1,000? Like, the rationale is pretty simple as a consumer and as a sales manager or a dealer principal to, move the metal. It's just going to cost you a bunch of money to sit there.
And, car businesses are really cash intensive. Cash flow is so important in a car business at a dealership. So imagine having to stroke a check for $100,000 in floor plan interest at the beginning of the month for having financed your cars last month. That's a big chunk of change that a dealer has to send off to somebody else. They don't feel good when they write checks like that. Trust me.
All right, you're talking about chunk of change, and a big one. We have the floor plan expense from the three of the large publicly traded auto groups: Group 1, Lithia, and Penske. Group 1 had year over year in the third quarter a 153.8% increase in floor plan expense, up to $16.5 million. Lithia Motors, their floor plan expense increased 275.7% to $40.2 million, and Penske Automotive increased 157.2% to $35.5 million. Talk about big checks, man. Those are humongous checks. And as consumers, this is information and knowledge you should be armed with. It's a level playing field. The dealership's thinking about this every day. When you go in to buy your car, think about this as well. Find vehicles that have been sitting on their lot for a while and go negotiate those. There's more incentive to want to discount them because they've already dug themselves a pretty good hole. They just need to move on from it.
This is why dealership sales managers and general managers are tasked with managing inventory and knowing how quickly it turns and taking a look at it and going, after 60 days, this is really starting to cost us money. What do we need to do to create the interest in this vehicle so that a customer will say yes and buy it? And that's the whole concept of managing inventory, so you can manage your costs, so you can maximize the profit for the dealership. Holding on to it is the opposite.